El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Elyon Adonai. Age to age is still the same by the power of the name El Shaddai, El Shaddai, Elkamana Adonai. We will praise and lift you high, El Shaddai. Through your love and through the wrong, you saved the son of Abraham. Through the power of your hand, turn the sea into dry land. Through the outcasts on our knees, you are the God who really sees. And by your might, you set your children free. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Elyon Adonai. Age to age is still the same by the power of the name El Shaddai, El Shaddai, Elkamana Adonai. We will praise and lift you high, El Shaddai. Through the years you made it clear that time of Christ was near. Though the people couldn't see what Messiah ought to be, though your word contained the plan, they just could not understand. Oh, Moses, some work was done, though the frailty of your son. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Elyon Adonai. Age to age is still the same by the power of the name El Shaddai, El Shaddai, Elkamana Adonai. We will praise and lift you high, El Shaddai. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Elyon Adonai. Age to age is still the same by the power of the name El Shaddai, El Shaddai, Elkamana Adonai. We will praise and lift you high, El Shaddai.
All right, everybody, we are back. And we are going to get to chapter 6. I'm going to warn you, I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible, but there's a lot I have to touch on chapter 6. This is one of those chapters in the Bible I actually don't like doing much, but we have to do it because so many people make their whole ministry about this chapter. All right, all you got to do is go through YouTube and look up what we're going to talk about today, or just look up chapter 6 and you'll find tons of people put way too much emphasis on this chapter, but it does need to be talked about because we are at chapter 6 of Genesis. So we're going to go out on the deep end. Now, I am trying to keep this. Again, the idea of this Bible studies I'm doing is this is the first time I'm trying to keep it though, as this is the first time you've ever picked up a Bible and you're reading it. But I do have to get a little into some stuff here just to cover all the bases to make my point. There's two theories on chapter 6. We'll go over both theories. I'll tell you which theory I believe in, and I heavily believe it, and I'll show you the facts on why I believe it. But yeah, here we go. But before we get into it, it's always important to pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for your word. Thank you for giving us your word. Please give me the discernment and understanding that I need to read and teach what you want taught out of this teaching we're going to give today, Lord. Help it to reach the ears you'd like it to reach. Help. Just, I'm probably going to get some negative comments on this. That's all right. Just help to open the hearts of those that need to be opened. And as always, thank you for sending your son to die on the cross for us, so we do not have to perish and go to hell, that we can live in heaven with everlasting life. That because we accepted Jesus as our Savior, we know he died on the cross for us, and he took all of our sins for us, and he shed his innocent blood for us. And then he rose again 3 days later, and he conquered both sin and death, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but shall have everlasting life. In Jesus' name I ask it. Amen. All right, let's get into chapter 6. Let me pull it up here. There it is. Genesis chapter 6. All right, let's do this. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, and the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. All right. So, chapter 6 starts with what we call the days of Noah. And Jesus himself called it the days of Noah himself. We're going to go to Matthew 24, and where Jesus calls it this very same thing. So we're going to go to Matthew 24, verse 37. But Noah's, or Jesus right here is given the Olivet Discourse, where he gives his sermon on the Mount Olive. So it's called the Olivet Discourse. And he's talking about the end days here. He's talking about how the world's going to be at the end of the days. And he makes a comparison of those days, but as the days were Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. So the world's going to be a lot like it was in the day of Noah. Is what he's making a comparison to. So, in order to understand what the end of the world, the end days are going to look like, we got to understand what the days of Noah were like. So that's why this is important to understand what was going on during Noah's time. And so we're going to go down a rabbit hole here of what this will be like, what the world will look like. And all you got to do is look at the world around us right now to kind of figure it out. So first, we got to come back here. Let's talk about the sons of God. Now, we already went through in chapter 5, we talked about there's only two people ever called the sons of God, two men that were ever called the sons of God in the Bible, and that was Adam and that was Jesus. The only two. Everybody after Adam was called the son of Adam. We were a son of man. We were men. Adam was the only one that was directly ever made by God himself, and then we all were born after Adam, except for Jesus, who was formed in the womb by God. So, sons of God here, it's here twice. The sons of God, and it's down here. When the sons of God came unto the daughters of men. Again, sons of God, daughters of men. So who are the sons of God? Now, this is translated in Hebrew as Benene Ha-Halahim, which means angels. It's used many times. Every time it's used, it is referring to angels. And you can find it in Old Testament, just a couple places, Job 1:6, 2:1, and in 38:7. Those are all in Job, but there's many other places, but those are just places you can go check out yourself. And in the New Testament would be Luke 20:36. So those are just some reference points, Old Testament, New Testament, where this same phrase comes up and it's referring to angels. Now, again, we are sons and daughters of Adam. And we cannot become a son of God unless we are born again. So when we are born of our earthly father and mother, we are sons of Adam. And the only way to become a son of God is to be reborn. We need a rebirth. We need to be born again. And that is pointed out in John chapter 1, verses 11 and 12. He, as in Jesus, he came unto his own, and his own received him not. Talking about Israel. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become sons of God, even to them that believe on his name. So the only way for us as men to become sons of God is to be born again. And which were born not of blood, nor of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. So again, we have to have that rebirth in God to become a son of God. So these sons of God that they're talking about here in Genesis, Jesus hadn't died on the cross yet. So it can't be man. They were not born again yet. And it says they came unto the daughters of men. The daughters of men is Benoth Edom. That's the Hebrew of it, and it actually means daughters of Adam. It's pretty much the sons of God, the Bene Elohim, came into the daughters of men, the Benoth Adam. So the sons of God, the angels, came in unto the daughters of men. The daughters of men. And so in 4, then it says there were giants in the earth of the days, and also after that. We're going to talk about that after that here in a little bit. The giants. Now this is I hate talking about this because I said it's so overdone, and I said they make their whole ministry over this. And it's important. Yes, it is important to know, and it helps to understand the Old Testament a lot in certain places on why God did certain things. And it also helps with prophecy. But giants, obviously, a lot of people know. If you don't know, the Hebrew name for that is Nephilim. And Nephilim means the fallen ones. It comes from the root word Nephal. Nephal means to fall or be cast down, to fall away, or to desert. So pretty much the giants are known as the fallen ones. And they are the offspring of the angels that came into the daughters of men. And the babies that were came out of that were these giants, the Nephilim. And the reason why this is important is these were not these were an abomination in God's eyes. God did not approve these, did not want these. They were soulless. They had no soul. And we're going to find out their ancestors are actually called dead people, pretty much. That's what their name translates. They're the walking dead, pretty much. They have no soul. And then mighty men is, because it says here, they became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. Mighty men is I'm going to murder Hegaborim, and it means the mighty ones is what it means. But yeah, they were mighty men, men of old, of renown. So Nephilim, when it was translated into Greek, it was called Gigantus. Yes, Gigantus, which is giants in Greek, but it also comes from the root word gigas, which means earth-born. So pretty much these were in Greek mythology. Gigas or Gygus was also the same word they used. If you will find Gygus as what the Greeks used in their Greek mythology to refer to Titans, like Hercules, Atlantis, or Atlas. They were half god, half human in Greek mythology, Gygus, and it's the same root word that makes up these. Now we're going to find out later that this was used in many cultures. These half human, half gods are brought forth of many cultures. But Greek is the one we know the most. We're Titans, yes. You know, what is that movie? The Titans movie? Is it just called Titans? I thought it was something Titans. But so if you know your Greek mythology, that's where this comes from. Jude, the book of Jude is the last book written by Jesus's brother, and it's the book right before Revelation. It's a short little epistle, and Jude talks about these guys. Jude only has one chapter, and so verses 6 and 7. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto judgment of the great day. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah. So he's making a comparison between the angels that kept not their first estate. He's going to compare them to Sodom and Gomorrah. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. So when Jude is comparing the angels to Sodom and Gomorrah, they were known for giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh. So what did these angels do? They left their habitation, they left heaven to come here to search after strange flesh. These sons of God, when they saw the daughters of Adam, or men. So the one thing I want to point out here is, but left their own habitation. Now, habitation in Greek, because this is New Testament, so it was written in Greek, is, I'm going to murder this word too, is oikid, is akaterin. I may be murdering that. It's been a long time since I took Greek. It's akaterin though, and it's only found in one other place in the Bible, and that is in 2 Corinthians 5:2, which me and my buddy Eric just went through, because we just were, well, actually, by the time this comes out, we probably have finished 2 Corinthians. Like, we just were finishing up 2 Corinthians, which you can find us on Eric B's channel every Sunday at 2 p.m. Central Time, or 1 p.m. Central Time. 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. But yeah, by the time this comes out, we should have finished 2 Corinthians. But the only other time that this Greek word is used is in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 2. And if you were there for Eric B's, we talked about how, Jesus says, he's preparing many mansions, and how we think about mansions as these big buildings or whatever. What we brought forth is God is preparing our heavenly bodies, and we're going to get rid of this tabernacle, which it says up here, the tabernacle, which Paul says our earthly body is like a tabernacle, like a tent, pretty much. And we're going to get rid of this tabernacle, and we're going to go and get our eternal house, our mansion, which is our eternal body, our heavenly body, our sinless body. But it says, for in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed upon with our house, which is from heaven. Now, house right here is also translated from the same word, that okaterion, or okaterion. And it's the only two times it's used in the body. So pretty much what Jude's saying is, when they left their habitation, they shed their heavenly body to come down. The angels themselves shed their heavenly body. They left it. They left their heavenly body to come here to engage in fornication and going after strange flesh. And that's pretty much what Jude is telling us here, is that they shed their heavenly body. In 2 Corinthians, we can't wait to get our heavenly body. Yeah, we can't wait to shed this earthly tent that breaks down and falls apart all the time. I hope this is making sense. I'm trying to keep this without going way into the deep end on it, because that could make this way worse. 2 Peter also links the angels with the days of Noah. We go to 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 4 and 5. And for if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them into hell, which is Tartarus, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto the judgment, and spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the eighth person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly. So pretty much what he says, he's comparing that the angels, these angels that sinned, and then were cast down to hell, happened at the same time as he spared not the old world. He spared not the angels and the old world at the same time. I kind of, we talk about that. I wonder what it was like before Noah, because, the Great Continental Divide doesn't happen until the flood of Noah. It never rained, as far as we know, until the Great Flood. It says, like a mist would come up from the earth to water the ground. People lived to be, 900 years old until the flood. Then after the flood, the age starts to drop dramatically of how long people live. And there's, scientific, discoveries. They find woolly mammoth. They found that one woolly mammoth up in Siberia. They still had a mouthful of food. They find, if you dig deep into like Alaska, they'll find like tropical plants in Alaska underneath like glaciers. it's nuts. So it's weird to think about what the world was like before the flood. But again, 2 Peter, he's making these angels sinning and cast down to hell were at the same time as he spared not the old world. So this happened simultaneously. So these giants that were on the earth, the Nephilim. Now, you'll be surprised that these giants or Nephilim, there's a version of these in almost every ancient culture, just like the story of Noah itself, the flood, the great flood, I think is in 98% of all world cultures. There's a story of some sort of a giant flood and only a certain family making it out. The same thing with these giants. And they are from Samaria. These are all ancient civilizations that all have accounts of these giants or Nephilim. We got Samaria, Assyria, Egypt, the Incas, the Mayans, Gilgamesh, or, I can't even think, Persia, Greece, which I said is the one we most know. We know about the Greek Titans and all that, Greek mythology, but India, Bolivia, the South Sea Islands, and even here in America, our Native Indians, our Native Americans. They this old Western movies, they did the, natives did this, how they would lift the one hand and say how. It was true, but it wasn't the same. The reason they did that is because they had a lure, they were afraid of 6-fingered men For some reason, so to prove you weren't a six-fingered man, as you were walking up to a natives, they had to raise a hand and say how, so you could see that they didn't have six fingers. Obviously Hollywood turned it into something different, but that's the reason why they did that. And they had the natives here. And the reason I'm going into the native ones is because I'm from America and I live in South Dakota. We have a huge native population. I've learned a lot about their culture over the years, but I have a lot of Native American friends. I mean, half my class in school was Native Americans. But again, that's the reason why they did that. Was they were afraid of six-fingered men, and they had stories of men like these old tribes that were 3 times the size of regular men. I think is it Wild Bill or Buffalo Bill? Maybe it was Buffalo Bill. In some of his writings, in dealing with the natives, he talked about how the natives would tell him stories about these giant men that could keep stride with the buffalo, and they would just, they'd be running and keep stride with a buffalo and grab them and rip a buffalo leg off and just start eating it right there. And of course, spirit mounds. I have one 10 miles away from me. We have a spirit mound right there. And they're these giant mounds that the natives, they're supposed to be graveyards, but according to the Native American lore, that's where they would bury the giants, is in these spirit mounds, and they were never to be excavated or anything like that. They buried them, and that's why these spirit mounds are so big, is they're buried these giants there, and they're all over. You can find them. So I got one 10 miles away from me. People come all the time to walk up on top of it and take pictures and whatever, but they don't even know what they're really walking on. So that's kind of the fallen angel story. Now, the other take on this, sons of man saw the sons of saw the daughters, the sons of God saw the daughters of men, is they say the Seth bloodline were supposed to be the righteous people, and Cain's bloodline were the evil people, and Seth wasn't supposed to intermingle with Cain, and so they but Seth's descendants started mating with Cain's descendants, and that's the other theory on it. I don't buy that one at all. For one, again, it goes into prophecy, and it goes into there's a lot of things we're going to touch on here in a minute, but I have to give the other side. I'm one of those. I will give both sides, and you make up your mind. But the thinking behind that is, Seth's bloodline was the good bloodline. Cain's bloodline was the evil bloodline. And they weren't supposed to mingle, even though intermingling wasn't brought up till way later in the Bible, which we're going to get to later in Genesis. But I don't buy that one. Just because a believer marries a non-believer and they have a child, how does that make them genetically different? Like, I've known many believers that are married to non-believers and they have kids, and they didn't come out giants. It makes no sense to me, but that is the other theory. Now, the Seth and Cain versus Cain theory, if you look back at where it started, it didn't show up till about the 5th century. It was adopted by the Catholic Church, which was the Romans. When it started, was the Roman Church, which became the Roman Catholic Church. And that's where it pretty much came from. But again, I don't believe that one. I believe in the angels. Reason. All right. We're going to come back to it. So, why do I believe the angels are ones? All right. The sons of daughters, the sons of God saw the daughters that they were fair and took them wives of all which they chose. Doesn't sound like the wives had much choice in it. They just kind of took them. We're going to go back to 4 here. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that. So we're going to talk about the after that. So after that, after the flood, Genesis 14 and 15, Joshua is, trying to take the land of Canaan back, for the Israelites. And we run into not Joshua. Yeah. We run into the Rephaim, the Eman, the Horim, and the Zumim. And Genesis 14 and 15, pretty much, he tells them God tells him to wipe out every man, woman, and child. And as New Testament, we're trying to figure out, why would God tell them to wipe out every man, woman, and child of these races? And again, if you break down Rephaim, that actually means dead people. It means walking dead. These people, again, had no souls. They were, if you remember from the day, God told Abraham that he was going to lead his people out of the land and then bring them back 400 years later. So while he was gone, Satan filled up the land that he knew God was going to bring the people back to with these people. He'd done it in Noah's time and it worked great. It took over the whole world, this bad seed. And so he did it again in this land. So for one, when the Israelites came back, they would have to try to take it from these giants, these these Nephilim type people that were, mighty men, and they were the offspring of angels and human women. And you can also find these in many places. We're not going to go through the whole Genesis 14 and 15, but we are going to talk about Audubah, Anak and his 7 sons, the Anakim, and we're going to go to Numbers 13. We're going to start in 28. We're going to read through 33. This is Numbers chapter 13. We're starting in 28. And nevertheless, the people, so this they sent up the scouts, 12 men, to go scout the land, because they're coming back to the land and they're about to take their land back. And when they get there to the edge, they send in these 12 people to kind of check out the land. And they come back with this report. This is the report of the land that God's telling them to come take over. So, nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and by the coast of Jordan. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, "Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it." And I like this part because, only Caleb and Joshua out of the 12 came back and like, let's go do it. God said to do it. Let's go do it. But the other 10 men, but the men that went up there with him said, "We are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we." And they brought an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, "The land through which we have gone to search it is the land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof. And all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight." So that's a big man. These ain't like, 7-foot basketball players. I stood next to guys that are about 7 feet, and I'm 6'1". They're big. They're big. But I didn't feel like a grasshopper. Again, they called them giants. And again, it's translated Nephilim. But so here's a part in the Bible where it talks about the giants after the flood. So this is after it. Again, you can Og, the king of Bashan. You can find in Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 11, and the whole Joshua 12, and Goliath and his 4 brothers, obviously, which is 2 Samuel 21, 16 through 22, and 1 Chronicles 20, verses 4 through 8. But why are these giants so important? Why? Well, as we talked about, Jesus himself said the last days will be as the days of Noah. So why is it so important if these are angels mingling with men, creating these mighty men, these giants, these whatsoever? Well, why it's important if the days of the last days before God comes back and gets us up in the rapture, if it's supposed to be at the days of Noah, what does that mean? Are these guys going to come back? Well, Daniel actually answers us this. We're going to go to Daniel chapter 2, and Daniel's given this Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. That's what I was thinking of earlier when I was talking about Gilgamesh is Babylon. But Daniel is giving Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, the prophecy, because Nebuchadnezzar has the prophecy of this great statue, head made of gold, chest made of silver, and all that. And it gets down to the feet, and at the feet, it talks. We'll go to 42 here actually, but the feet. This is the last kingdom, and we can trace these kingdoms. The gold head was Babylon, and then Persia, and then Greece, and then Romans, and then the last one is kind of a mixture. It's like Rome number 2, but it's the last great world it's the last great like world government, world kingdom. So what he tells us here in Daniel is, and as the toes of the feet were part iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So the thing is who is they? It says they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. So if they're going to mingle themselves with the seed of men, that means they're not men. So who is they? You guess as good as mine. I have my guess, because this is talking about the end times. This is the last world government. This is the last one, the one that's coming up. But it says, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Who is they? Well, if we're at the last times, the end times, the last world government, and it should be as the days of Noah, this again will be fallen angels having children with human women and causing more of these Nephilim. So that's the prophecy part of it. That's the prophecy part of it. So that's why it is so important in the Bible. It was before the flood, it was after the flood, and it's going to come again at the end of the flood. And actually, when Joshua is supposed to be taking all the land of Canaan, there's parts he doesn't conquer, and the Rephaim still live there, and he never did take it. Jericho is one of the places that he never did completely wipe out these people, and still fought over to this day. To this day, he still fought over those areas that were not completely taken over. So that's the two theories, the angelic theory and Seth theory. I obviously believe in the angelic theory. I believe that the sons of God were angels that left their habitation, left their heavenly bodies, and came down here and took the daughters of Adam and bare children with them and became mighty men, which were men of old, men of renown. And this is I believe, the biggest reason why God had to wipe out the flood. And it was another attack. It was pretty much an attack of Satan, because in Genesis 3, God said the seed of man will injure the seed of the serpent's head. And right away, Satan tried to corrupt the seed of man, so that couldn't happen. And he does it over and over again. And every time God brings out a little more, Satan attacks that certain, because first it's the seed of man. So what does he do? He tries to corrupt the whole seed. Well, then he picks out Abraham. So what does he do? He tries to destroy Abraham. Moses, the Israelites are at captive in Egypt. What do? They try to wipe out all the males. Even after they're leaving, the Pharaoh tries to wipe him out and gets killed. And then it says that it's going to come out of the tribe of Judah. What does Satan do? Tries to ruin the tribe of Judah. Can't do it. Takes the other 10 tribes out, but can't get Judah. Then it comes from the seed of David. So what does he do? Tries to take out David's seed. But if you read all of David's account and the generations of David, there's always one child saved, a servant hides a baby, or something always works out that the seed of David keeps going. And even even when Jesus was being born, what do they do? They go and wipe out every kid from 2 and under, every child from 2 years and under. Again, Satan's attempt to try to wipe out. This is just the first attempt Satan's did to try to disrupt God's plan. Of course, it never works. But he tries it over and over again throughout the Bible. And this was just the first attempt, was to mingle our seed with these fallen angels and get it. Then how can there be the seed of the woman to bruise his head if he messed with our DNA? All right. We got past the giants. Now we can read the rest of this. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. Biggest thing I take away from 6 is that we can hurt God. It grieved him at his heart. He made us for us to have communion and friendship, and didn't take song. We turned on him. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. But, I like this, but Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Thank God for Noah. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. And a little part that always gets passed over again is he was perfect in his generations. What does that mean? He was a just man, but he was perfect in his generations. With that, what perfect there, the Hebrew is tamium, and it means without blemish, without spot. It means it's sound. It means it's helpful. So it means his generations were unblemished, pretty much. So again, Noah's seed had not been mixed with this other seed. His generations were unblemished. They were perfect. And Noah walked with God just like Enoch did. And Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. Just look at the world today. Filled with violence. Look all over the world for that. Not just here in America, everywhere. Everywhere. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. Again, the flesh was corrupted. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood, room shall thou make in the ark, and shall pitch it within and without with pitch. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make it of. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, and the breadth of it 50 cubits. Now, pretty much what a cubit was you measured from your elbow. So it could have been, the general consensus is about 18 inches, foot and a half. Of course, if you were a tall guy, could have been up to 24 inches. But the general consensus, it's about 18 inches, about a foot and a half or so is a cubit. So do your own measurements there. But yeah, and the breadth of 50 cubits and the height of it 30 cubits. And a window shalt thou make to the ark, and it a cubit shall thou finish it above, and the door of the ark thou shalt set in the side thereof, with lower, second, and third stories shalt thou make it. And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under the heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. But with thee I will establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons and thy wife and thy sons' wives with thee. And of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort shall thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female. Of fowls after their kind, and of cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing of the earth after his kind, 2 of every sort shall come unto thee, to keep them alive. And take thou unto thee of all food that is eaten, thou shalt gather it to thee, and it shall be for food for thee and for them. Thus did Noah according to all that God commanded him, so he did. Whew, there we go, chapter 6. That was a long one. I'm sorry. I do like how they just kind of wrap that up. And thus did Noah according to all God. Make it sound like it was so easy. It took him 120 years. It told us at the beginning of this, when he called out Noah, there was 120 years. It took him 120 years to build this. Literally built the Titanic in his driveway. Nobody had ever heard of rain before. So he's sitting there, he's building this giant Titanic ship in his driveway. And people are going, what in the world are you doing? And he's telling them there's going to be rain coming, which never rained before. There's going to be water falling from the sky. And they're like, all right, crazy dude. And then he's gathering these animals. And yeah. Must have been quite a sight. Quite a sight. All right, sorry this one was so long, but I had to get through it. Again, I could have went into way more depth into it. I was trying to keep it light, but we got through it. So next week we'll get on to chapter 7, and we will get into the flood. All right, that is it. Stop screen sharing. Well, until next week, never forget Genesis 9:3. Peace.